Welcome back to Wally's World of Fishing. This week I've been absolutely inundated with messages on how to catch King George whiting and what do I do and what are my methods. So here's a short video to show you exactly what I do when I fish for King George whiting. Now there's two methods of fishing for King George whiting that I use, and that depends on whether I'm fishing in slow moving non-tidal water or if I'm fishing in faster moving tidal bodies like Western Port Bay or down the southern end of Port Phillip Bay. So if I'm fishing up northern part of Port Phillip Bay, for example, and the current's not moving too fast, I'll use a very simple setup which consists of a little ball sinker, swivel, a leader that's about 50 centimeters to a size 6 hook, or a size 4 hook, depending on the size of fish that I'm catching. The rod setup is very simple. I'm just using a little Shimano Spectrum nibble tip, nothing fancy. Got this on special at Complete Angler in Dandenong. 2.5 reel. I'm using 9-pound mono and I use 12-pound leader. Now, when I'm fishing in the faster moving waters like the southern end of Port Phillip Bay or Western Port, I use a different type of setup altogether. So I'll have your swivel. You'll notice there's a loop in it, and also probably about 50 centimeters worth of leader down to a size 6 or a size 4 hook as well. Now what this loop does is I attach my sinker to it. All I do is pretty much I pinch this loop, feed it through the swivel on the sinker, and just roll it over the top and let it dangle. And that allows me to change weights really quickly if I change location or the tide slows down. As for setup, flexible rod, but it's a bit stiffer than a nibble tip, just to manage to hold that heavier weight without having the rod constantly flexed and stretched. I use 15-pound braided line because the thinner diameter of the braided line actually reacts a lot better in the faster moving current. It allows the line to sit better, it allows the hook the sinker to sit better on the bottom without it dragging the line too much. To make this rig is very simple. All I do is I get myself some 12-pound line, about 1 meter of it. I'll measure out about, say, approximately 30 centimeters, fold it over, so I've got a little loop there, hold the loop, pull it down about yay, create another loop, and then feed the smaller loop through the larger loop once, excuse the chubby fingers, and then twice. Oops, here we go, twice, until you get something that looks like that. Moisten it up a bit like that, pull it together slowly, and there's your loop. Now on the shorter side, on the shorter tag, that's where I'll tie my swivel. On the longer tag, I'll tie my hook. Swivel to the braided line like so. You'll have your loop in the middle, down to your size 6 or size 4 hook. Baits, I like to use California squid strips, really thin small ones, and fish candy pippies. Now sometimes I like to use both at the same time, so I'll make my squid strip just that little bit smaller and put a bit of pippy on top, just to give me that double chance in case the fish are a bit small and all my reflexes are a bit off on the day. Now, you're not catching fish if you don't bring them up to your boat. Most importantly, I use one of these. I'll put half a dozen to a dozen pilchards. My preferred brand is Fish Candy because they're always fresh. I'll put some bread on top of it. I'll wait till I'll let them sit in the water a bit until they've thawed out. Then I'll give it a good squish, attach it to my rope, and I dump it right down to the bottom, and I let it sit on the floor. When it's sitting on the floor, cast my lines out just outside of it, down current from it, and you get onto them. Now, if you're fishing and you've been there and the current's moving and you've got your burley trail out and your lines are good and your bait's good and you're not getting any bites, you wait 15 minutes max. If nothing's happening, pull up your anchor and move along. Look for some weeded ground with some sand patches. Try to anchor more on the weed and try to fish right on the edge of the sand patch and the weed. If you can do that, you'll have a great trip. And that's another handy tip from Wally's World of Fishing.